This is Irene from BrainStorm Acres, and we're doing a garden update. The sage is done. The sad thing about that this year is usually it's just covered with bees, and there were no bees. And we've chatted with several neighbors who are gardeners, and they all said the same thing: no bees this year. So next year we're going to have to seriously look at possibly getting some sort of bees. We probably won't get honeybees unless our schedule is going to be different than it is right now. But we will probably buy some sort of bees because we have no bees left here. And I don't really understand, because this is not farm country. This is ranch country, and nobody sprays up here. So, but we still are missing our bees. The lavender, full bloom. I don't see a single bee. I've got a yellow jacket over there. We've got flies. We've got some little wasps, but we have 0 bees. So that's a first for us. This, again, is usually just totally covered. Even the oregano, which has gone wild here, and I will have to beat back into submission later this summer. It's got flowers all over it, and it has a great smell. Normally it's just buzzing with bees. Not even many wasps this year. Usually we get these little teeny tiny wasps, which are actually good because they're the sort of parasitic ones that kill worms and stuff. Nothing. So we'll see. Center bed here. I need to pull this. Hi, Miss Isa, you're hiding back there, huh? Gosh, I can't get it out. I'll have to cut it off later. Only part of this bed is armored. The center section has hardware cloth on the bottom so the gophers can't come up. And this strip over here has hardware cloth on the bottom so the gophers can't come up and eat it. And I put the last of my hollyhocks over there because they should grow nice and tall. I always try and create something exciting to look at out of the kitchen. This wheat is for some random straw that came off the straw bales. We have quite a nice little wheat harvest going on in some spots here. A bit on the annoying side. One of the things I was kind of concerned about using straw bales for, but we'll see how it works out in the long run. I will say that the straw that's in the south yard of our house, which is not fenced, has become the wildlife central. Every rabbit and jackrabbit and Bambi and everything else in the area is coming in to eat the wheat that's in that straw. So we'll see what happens in the long run. This bed is going to be completely rebuilt, but not until the end of summer. It used to be peppermint, and the thyme and oregano has taken over the planet. I need to change up some of the irrigation again here, I can see. And we're just letting that go for the summertime. The weeds will not even do that well. We do have an amazing selection of hollyhock this year. For the first time, the hollyhock has had a chance to really bloom before it gets cut down. Usually the gophers come in and eat the roots from underneath, and you come out and the plant, like that big white one, is just fallen over and gone. But at least we got to see it, and I got some pictures to prove that they actually did exist this year. Which is really nice, because it's very frustrating to never get to see them bloom. Usually what happens is the stalk comes up, the buds are in place, and then they get eaten. The peas are still producing a little bit, but not a lot. Our best production has definitively come off of the snow peas this year. It's pretty amazing how many snow peas I've gotten off so far. I have, I believe, 10 packages right now in the freezer, and one of the things on the list to do today is to process the ones that are in the fridge. The regular shell peas, both Essayones, early peas, and the Johnny's peas are drip-drabbing along. 4 or 5 pods a day. About time to pull them. They're actually probably costing us more in water than they are in anything else at this point. But the snow peas are still doing well, so I will leave them in for a while longer. But I think it's about time to say bye to the regular peas, because they're just, you know, 3 or 4 pods a day is not worth keeping up the garden space. Garlic is done, and the Jerusalem artichoke is coming up, which is the way this is designed to work. The garlic stays down there and the Jerusalem artichoke comes up. We had, oops, there's Escape. He was a late bloomer. We had a very nice harvest of Escapes this year. If you don't know what Escape is, it's the flowering bit off of a garlic plant. I see 2 of them. I was, it's because I stopped looking for them. But I've been out here for weeks picking them, and we don't allow them to go to flower. Some people do because they like to use the flowers in oils and things like that. I want them to put all their energy into their bulbs. Like I say, the garlic's done, and it's just Jerusalem artichoke now. We'll be doing a video on the potatoes. We're not exactly sure what was going on here. This was the first potato thing to be up. It has enough moisture in it. The top is dry, but that's underneath it's moist. We think when we planted these out, there were a ton of leaf hoppers around, so it's possible that they may have transmitted the disease. These were the only seed potatoes we could get at the time. We waited too late. When I looked up the variety, I found out they're susceptible to everything, and I'm like, why would they even sell those? They say that in commercial production they've been virtually replaced, but they're still selling them to us silly people in garden centers. So I will definitely not be using this variety next year unless we get an absolutely fantabulous harvest. But my current goal is to dump this guy out first, see if there's any production off him at all. I have one more pot like this, and we have sweet potato slips that we've been growing in the kitchen for what seems like forever, because it took like forever for them to grow. This is our front garden area. I know it looks messy, but it's not actually as bad as it looks. This is our daffodil and tulip bed. We've always called it the tulip bed, but that's been supplanted for sure by the iris that were gifted to us last fall. We had a very nice display off the iris, and the California poppies self-seed into here. They are mostly sort of done right now. They'll come back later in the summer. I've planted marigolds in here, the short variety, and I also have marigolds from our tall variety that have self-seeded in here. This mess over here is not really as messy as it looks. A couple of years ago we had this little daisy guy show up in the garden. Actually, he showed up on the edge of the garden and also in between this. Now this gets no water, and my thought was anything that can live in our flagstone patio and not get watered and still manage to get all the way to seeds and produce pretty flowers in the process gets my thumbs up. Because we live in the desert, because we have snakes, because we have scorpions, I always want a section completely clear. But you can see that the vast majority of this is actually still those little silly daisies. So my goal long term is to have nothing in here but cute little daisies, and they don't produce any kind of stickers or anything nasty that would bother the cats, dogs, or anybody else. So we're just letting them go. This garden over here is a perennial garden and self-seeding. So I have Echinacea purpurea, I have California poppy, which self-seeds, I have tick seed, which self-seeds but is also a perennial. I grew the Echinacea last year from seed, and it's already started to spread a little bit, which is just fine. We have some calendula in here. That's left over from, that's self-seeded, and that's left over from probably 6 or 8 years ago. Will overwinter here, but it also tends to overwinter bugs with it. So you'll have leaf miners and stuff that will overwinter with it, which I was not thrilled with. My goal for next year is to plant way more perennials. I have a little marigold I planted in here yesterday, just because I had a spare. These are lupins. Somebody's eating their leaves off. Could be a bug, it could be a mouse, heaven knows. I'm trying to do a combination of things that will come back and things that bugs and mice don't like to eat, which is a really big challenge around here. The violas reseed themselves. They haven't been getting enough water lately, so they're kind of dying back, but they'll come back. So next year, you can look forward to a lot more stuff going on in here. One of the things I like about the echinacea is it seems to be able to be pretty drought tolerant. I tried planting rudbeckia, which is black-eyed Susan, and butterfly flower thing. We bought the roots from a big box store, and I would say it's a giant fail. The reason I tried it was because we tried to get rudbeckia in stores around here before, in nurseries, and we could never find it. So I have a feeling that next year I'll be learning the ins and outs of growing rudbeckia from seed, because I really, really want black-eyed Susans. They're drought tolerant, they're pretty, they'll come back every year, and that's what my goal is for this. I don't mind putting a couple of things in the front, and I love the self-seeding things, but I want a basic structure to the bed. She likes to hang around with me in the garden. And she loves the fact that we've got these little pathways. I'm sure that's what she thinks of them as, pathways for her to walk around the garden. Earlier this year, I planted a piece of my lavender over here, and it's doing great. Unfortunately, I also have this crap in here, which is buffalo gourd. I'm gonna have to try and pull that out as much as I can. Unfortunately, that comes back from the roots and is very tenacious. It's a native plant. And when we first moved here, I allowed it to be outside the fence. We've discovered since that it attracts every kind of bug known to God or man. This is a mullein plant, wild tobacco. There's a bunch of different names for it. I love it because it's gigantic and it's fuzzy and it's cool. I do not let these go to seed. I have chrysanthemums in here. They've been split a couple of times, and some of it got munched a couple of years ago, so it's a bit messy, but they're still starting to bloom. We should have yellow ones, and we'll have some, I think they're red ones too. All these Johnny jump ups self-seed every year. I also planted cosmos back along the wall, and I have hollyhocks that self-seeded in here. Bachelor buttons that I planted seedlings. Can't even think of the name of the darn thing now. Well, we have gomphrena over here. We have our chrysanthemums. Jack, out of there. Jack and Issa have a hard time understanding why they're not allowed to play in the flowers. Anyway, I have gomphrena in 2 different colors here, and then a lighter color there. I have wood violets. Those were gifted to me by a friend, and I have, as they have spread, I have just encouraged them to spread because they're perennials and they just keep coming back. Bachelor buttons I planted from seed this year. Cosmos I planted from seed this year. Violas plant themselves from seed every year. Hollyhocks, these are self-seeded. And it's produced a really nice display this spring so far. The section in towards the wall that has rocks in front of it gets watered. The section out here doesn't. So this will burn out as the summer goes on. And we have a bed on the other side. I like having flowers near doors because then anytime you pop in or out the door, you get to see them. This is completely self-seeded. It is full of violas, it has marigolds, it has, in fact, there was one marigold blooming, and it has wood violets. I've got wood violets around the bottom here. Those all had to be transplanted this year because I completely rebuilt this bed. We have portulaca. These are sparky marigolds from the mystery box that went around. This is our ancient snapdragon in the back that has been there for, I want to say, 6 years now. Did not know that snapdragons can be perennials. Now I have read some more stuff about them, and they say that in certain climates they can be. Not usually in our climate, but because it's right up against the foundation, it apparently stays warm enough that it has made it. And there's another one out in the yard someplace else too that has also made it for quite a number of years. We have zinnias up front here, and more bachelor buttons and cosmos. I can see that one of the bachelor buttons is going to bloom. It's going to be fun to see what color these turn out to be because they were all from seed and they were mixes. The other ones that are on the other side of the yard are all old ones from a package that I planted multiple years ago. And we have blues and we have pale colors that are sort of an in-between color, and then we have pink. So it'll be interesting to see what these turn out to be. These hollyhocks here are self-sown, and so is everything as far as Jack in this bed here, because this part of the bed has not been rebuilt yet. It's not gopher proof. So, and that's Jack's favorite spot. He's allowed to be in that sand spot that he's in over there. And he likes it because it's cool and he can kind of dig a hole there and nobody yells at him for digging. The cat lays over there sometimes too. So he's just in a big pile of lavender and violas and wood violets. He's like, they're talking about me. That's funny. We're doing pretty well this summer. We have a lot more to plant before we go hit the road this summer, but all of our early crops have done pretty well. And I'll be checking the irrigation again today to make sure that everything I've increased the irrigation on is getting enough juice now. Well, I hope you enjoyed this, and I'd love to see what other people are doing with their gardens. Even if you just have a garden in a pot. We've had lots of gardens in the pots over years. So keep on growing, and we'll see you next time. Bye.